Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast, brought to you by the Pepsi Tailgate Tour, which rolls into Pittsburgh at Heinz Field about 1 week from today for Sunday Night Football with the Steelers and Ravens. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am joined once again, well, I guess I'm rejoined with Brian E. Roach, because, Brian, you kind of did some things without me last time, but I think I'm safe in saying you held down the fort admirably.
I did what I could. Luckily, I had Zach Meckler there to help me out, keep me honest, and make me sound smart.
It was like the inmates running the asylum is what it was. When the cat's away, the mice will play. Well, I don't know where to begin. One and one is a lot better. I think I'll take that over 1 and 2.
Sure.
Sick burns for some of these teams that had some interesting weekends, like, the New England Patriots or Minnesota Vikings, or I know that's just vomit-inducing to say, but I'm enjoying. But hey, you know what I mean? A lot of people were freaking out. I tweeted out before Thursday Night Football last week with the Browns and Jets that everyone's going to freak out that the Browns will have a win before the Steelers will. And the football gods mostly align here and get everything corrected. Steelers offense looks like a well-oiled machine for the most part. The defense at times flashed and at times crashed. Geez, you know what? I don't even want to ask you, aside from the penalties, what stood out for you in this game?
Well, I'll tell you, you said the offense looked like a well-oiled machine at times, and I don't know that I think that. I'm still really starting to become concerned about whatever is missing between Ben and AB right now, because they just continue to not be on the same page. And it's great. AB made a stunning play. Don't get me wrong. AB's a talent. He made a great play on that quick screen for a touchdown. Ben was fantastic a lot of that game. The drive that ended the half was as masterful as he's ever been. And I didn't want to use the word masterful because it was in every tweet that came out about that drive. But it's the right term. It was vintage Ben. And then at the end of the game, towards the end of the game, vintage Ben escaping the pocket, finding Juju. Juju has become a very reliable target. Third game over 100 yards, leading the team in receiving yardage. And I don't know whether that's impacting AB's chemistry with Ben or not, or whether they just are missing something. But man, there's a play where Ben looks like he's trying to throw back shoulder, and AB isn't even looking. He's just going down the field. Another play, AB has burned his guy, thrown him off to the side. Ben misses him completely, throws it way too long. They have to get back in sync for this offense to continue to improve. The other thing that stood out is when it was necessary, when every analyst in the world, when every tweeter, when every Yinzer was whining, if we only had Le'Veon Bell, we'd be able to run the ball out. And James Conner came out and manned up and just buried the Buccaneers in the end of that game. That also stood out to me, and I really would like to say I don't really want to hear about Le'Veon Bell anymore.
If I could take whatever this mobile unit that Booger McFarland is on. Now, mind you, Booger is a guy that's usually on the Sirius XM NFL radio, and I actually thought, I have a high opinion of him from the radio broadcast. On this, it's like he's some shill with like 3 bullet points that he's going to constantly rattle about while moving around on this like goofy cart thing. Like, I don't understand it. I mean, he's got the best seat in the house, so it's good for him. He's getting paid for all this. But yeah, you know what? Once again, whatever team inherits Le'Veon Bell, if they want to pay him more money, they could overpay him from the tag, but they can't say, oh, we're going to sign a 4-year deal. They can't do anything. That's gone. I don't know how many more times we have to repeat it. I don't know how many more times people that cover the NFL can be so wrong in saying this and just continue this ridiculous narrative. It's driving me absolutely crazy. Kind of like the defense, Steelers with 30 points in the first half, offense and defense. You had a Bud Dupree pick 6 there. Couple of grown-ass men. We said we were going to start doing this, right? Grown-ass men awards. I got 2. Yep. I got 2 for today. I know you're going to love the one because it's a guy I was so high on for so long, and he's finally healthy and on the field. Number 89, Vance McDonald, just posterizes as a Chris Conti. Oh, my goodness. And there's a nice little snap of this up on the Steel City Underground Twitter of Cam Hayward. If you get to see any of the replays, Cam Hayward kind of does a the Nelson from The Simpsons type deal on the sideline, just pointing to him on the ground. And Vance McDonald it was like a stiff arm, and then he was like, oh, really? Yes, sir, may I have another? And then just flattened him in his face. The other one, this is very surprising. This is almost in Landry Jones territory of doing a total – I don't know. If you do a 360, you end up in the same spot. So I don't know. Is it a 359? Because a 180, you go the other direction, I guess. I don't know. I guess maybe it's a 180. Maybe we'll do a 180 here on Big Dan McCullers pushing the pile there that caused. Basically, he was in Pix Magic. Yes, I said it. Pix Magic's face and helped facilitate Bud Dupree basically almost kind of I don't even think he was expecting it. He turned around and it was great awareness. The ball was just kind of right there. I don't know that he was completely turned when it was released, and that set up the whole pick 6 thing there. And that basically, sealed the deal for the game, because this ended up being a 3-point game, which had me with no hair as it is, a bald guy trying to find hair to pull out. No more nails left. The anxiety of watching the NFL and this officiating, because I knew you were going to say officiating. I knew I was going to say officiating. It is bad no matter how you look at it. I cannot believe they didn't throw the one against Cam Hayward. I honestly thought there was a play with Joe Hayden at the beginning of the game where it was textbook shoulder. I thought that was going to get flagged. There was something else I thought that was going to get flagged. There were numerous bad calls. There were numerous ticky-tack calls. And overall, we see this. I don't know if this is a product of the Steelers and lack of discipline. I don't know if this is a we don't play in the preseason type of deal, or this is the league reining in their officials. But these first 3 or 4 weeks habitually for the last, 4 or 5 years have been a flag fiesta.
Yeah, I tend to think the officials don't. Well, look here. I was watching the Ohio State Tulane game over the weekend, right? And I'm texting with my aunt, who is an Ohio State alumnus, and she said, boy, the refs kind of blew a couple calls there. And I said, that's because the refs start stinking early. They stink at the college level, then they go on and stink at the pro level. I just cannot begin to fathom the level of ineptitude that goes along with the referees anymore. It's just beyond me. Now, look, I'm going to give them a half a break here. And the half a break is this new rule, this new ridiculous, I'm sorry, you passed gas near the quarterback, it's a penalty rule. Whatever this rule is, it has got to get fixed. This is worse than the catch rule, because essentially what they're saying is you can't even tackle a quarterback, period, or it's going to be roughing. It's beyond the pale. And I'm sorry, look, Aaron Rodgers got hurt last year. Wah. Too bad. That happens. It's football. And you can't overreact to that and go, oh, Aaron Rodgers got hurt. We have to make sure nobody ever gets hurt again.
Well, and so many words, because I don't know what to do with that. You lobbed that up for me, and I just let it hit the ground. I'm just sitting there watching it. Yes, it is. It's worse there needs to be a common sense rule. The catch needed common sense added to it. These hits with the quarterback need to have some common sense in it. In fact, when the quarterback slides and a player happens to graze or touch them when they're already in the act, when they've already committed to an action, and it just so happens that the quarterback can slide just a split second faster than the player can make a decision, there just needs to be some like common sense and some wiggle in this book. And what I'm seeing is just a bunch of guys out there interpreting things in black and white. Now, make no mistake about it, none of these referees want to lose assignments. None of these referees want to lose a paycheck. They're not Le'Veon Bell. They cannot afford to do that. Yeah. I had to mention him. Why do I keep bringing him up?
I don't know. I don't want you to. Stop doing it.
Hey, you know what? I'll take a minimum third rounder. See ya, sayonara. Hot take alert. Yeah. Hot take alert. Guess what? Last year, longest run. I'm just gonna jump off the officials. They'll come back up again because there was a number of bad things. Thank you for removing the Deshaun Jackson punt return for a touchdown. It would have doomed the game. I'm gonna give a thank you to Chris Boswell for missing another field goal and a point after. There's 4 points there that would have been in desperate need for the Steelers as well. There was very few good calls with the referees. There was like one play down the field. I was surprised there wasn't pass interference with Mike Evans. I'm like, well, he overthrew him through the back of the end zone and he tried to run over, I think, Sean Davis or Artie Burns. They were both in coverage back there, and it's just like, you know what I mean? It's like, thank you. Yep. At least common sense is finally, reared its head. So, but Le'Veon Bell, longest run last year. You may know this off the top of your head. You talked about him a lot in the offseason. You happen to know off the top of your head. Longest run last year.
I don't remember anymore.
Oh, that's very
41 yards, 27 yards. I don't remember.
27. That's great. Ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. And it just so happens that as soon as, was it Booger or somebody was opening their yapper about Le'Veon Bell, James Conner says,
27 yards. Boom.
Hold my Yahoo. Yoo-hoo. Hold my yoo-hoo. I don't think he drinks. He takes good care of that body. I guarantee it. 27-yard run with 5 minutes, 43 seconds left in the game. Right after it was it was that touchdown pass to Mike Evans where he was wide open back there. And it's just, you know what I mean? It was 30-27. Everybody's like, uh-oh, here comes this crap again. And you have Connor come out. And I think there was like some like weird stat because the Steelers are just gunslinging it all over the field on offense. And what was it, like 3 carries, 6 yards? It was just like there was
it was nothing. He had nothing.
It was nothing, and some of that was a couple of sacks negate some of the run yards and rush yards and stuff too. But so 27 yards and then 9 yards, and then Ben with the sneak on 2nd and 1. Really on 2nd and 1? Okay, but you know what? I get what they're trying to do there. You got a little conservative. They wanted to chew a little bit of clock. You had a timeout after Connor got tackled for a loss of 4. Some other guys that showed up, like Ryan Switzer in this game, I was very impressed with, just staying on the offensive side of the ball. Even Stephen Ridley, for that matter. But Connor, I mean, after doing nothing, ends up with 61 yards. He had another carry. I was looking for it here. I think it ended up being something like, let me see, that was the 27-yarder. I wanted to say he had like, no, that was the pass to Juju. I must have missed it. There was I think there was one other one that was a decent gain there too, amongst the pack at the end of the game. But you get the point. It's like you just got done saying, oh well, you need this guy, and it's like, well, obviously they don't need this guy.
Yeah, I am since Adam Schefter and the rest of the entire universe of media has now reported that the Steelers are listening to trade offers for Bell. Everybody is losing their mind and coming up with the scenarios of who they're going to get, what they're going to get, how they're going to get. They're like kids at Christmas. Oh boy, we're going to trade him. It's not going to happen. And here's why it's not going to happen. Bell has to approve. He has to sign a tender before he can be traded, which means he has complete control over whether a trade occurs. And if his stated thing is, I don't want to be overused. I don't want to be, carrying the ball 42 times or whatever. Then he's not going to go to another team. And even if he does, he's going to stink. He hasn't played all year. He's going to stink. And he's going to take time to get adjusted to that offense, a totally new offense. Why in the world, and all this being said, it'll probably happen. But why in the world would Le'Veon Bell, after doing all this nonsense, decide to go to another team and agree to a contract, so that he can go play the remainder of the year for somebody else, not play well, and then have to try and cash in? He's going to do nothing at this point. You know what he's going to do? He's going to wait to 10 weeks. He's going to see what the situation is with Pittsburgh, and then he's going to try and come in and coast the rest of the year.
Or he's just going to coast at home or on a jet ski and then play chicken to see if they'll play around with any type of tag in 2019. I thought the offense wasn't bad. There were obvious, he had the slow start. It was the 3-and-out. It was like, oh, geez, here we go again. You had Ben throw the pick. Oh, here we go again. And then he comes out and he ends up completing after that. He ends up completing for the day 78.9% of his passes, which, this was like Fitzmagic numbers. I said, I didn't get to do the podcast with you, the pregame this, but I didn't think Ryan Fitzpatrick's like 80-some% completion percentage was sustainable. I was actually surprised he threw for over 400 yards in this one too. But then again, I'm going to get to the defense here, so I'm not going to talk about the secondary just yet. But Ben with 3 TDs, 120.7 rating. We talked about Connor. Connor caught 5 passes as well for 34 yards. AB, I think that's just, how much camp and everything else did he miss? You know what I mean? He just takes a little bit of time. And if you're seeing how that's out of sync, just picture what Le'Veon Bell would be like. He's not. God, yeah. Oh, he's not, the Midas touch that this team is looking for. Look, they're 1-1-1. I was kind of poking fun about the New England Patriots here, but would you rather be 2 games behind like the Miami Dolphins and then have to face them and potentially go 3 behind this upcoming week? Although I doubt anybody in Boston area that New Englanders are believing any of that. 5 rings, they're going to say all of this. Well, 6 rings, So I did like that they were saying, Mike Tomlin has never, lost, had a losing season, stuff like that. But geez, it just seems like they're in this rut with all these penalties, and they had the tendency to defeat themselves. So, some things weren't always sharp. And early on, I think there was a little bit of adjustment with now B.J. Finney playing on the right side and Matt Filer playing next to him. I think, and they pitched in Okorafor in there. They got Rosie Nix in there, and somehow Connor still comes. It's like, we're going to ram this down your throat and impose our will. And it's exactly what they did at the end of the game, which I thought was pretty amazing, because I was almost expecting it to utterly fail, be an epic fail. But, Randy Fichtner, his first victory. Steelers are like far from out of this. There's a whole lot of football to be played, and now we can finally say, hey, they won. They beat a team that was 2-0. There's a lot of that was going on in week 3. A lot of bizarre type things. A lot of teams that hadn't had a victory yet. So everything's now starting to shake itself out as they kind of get their sea legs here. All of these teams in the league.
Yeah, look. We've been saying all along, I don't think the offense is the problem, and I think Ben and AB will work out whatever the kinks are in that relationship at the moment. But the nice thing is that they have enough stock weapons in that arsenal. I agree with you. The grown ass man award, Vance McDonald. I would give another one to James Conner on my own, but Vance McDonald, that was just. Not only do you posterize the guy, but he's injured and out. You just beat the poor guy down, Vance, and I don't think he could even believe it. He's looking around like, I can't believe I'm about to run 75 yards for a touchdown.
I think he energized the team, and let's not forget Antonio Brown, the out of sync things. Okay, he started the year last year against the Cleveland Browns, 11 for 182, no touchdown. 5 for 62 at home against the Vikings. No touchdowns. What's going on with AB? He has all these catches, leading the league in catches. Well, he's leading the league in targets right now, just not as many catches. And then they play the Bears, that OT game. The Steelers ended up losing. That was going to be the apocalypse, And he went 10 for 110 for 1 TD, and then comes back against the Ravens 4 for 34, shutout, no touchdown there. And then the rest of the season, he was starting to do like an MVP thing, but there was a spell where he had 4 for 65 on 10 targets, 5 for 70 on 10 targets, and 3 for 7 on 47 targets 3 weeks in a row with only 1 TD, 65, 70, 47 yards, 1 touchdown, and a total of, what am I looking at here, 12 catches on 27 targets. So he's going to end up working this out. It's one of those things we're going to iron out all of the wrinkles when it comes to the offense. So I'm impressed that they end up with 2 undrafted guys going in. You have an all-pro in David DeCastro that's out, and a guy who doesn't get the recognition he probably should get, probably a Pro Bowl level caliber tackle, and Marcus Gilbert. In the beginning of the game, Big Al Alejandro Villanueva was not having a hot game to start, and that kind of turned around too.
Yeah, I mean, they got it together. I'll tell you the thing that bothers me about what goes on with the offense. They got a little conservative in the second half too early. I know they wanted to do certain things, but you know what? And the defense is the same way, because I'm going to flip this. It was one of the problems I had with the offense, but it's also a problem I had with the defense. The defense turned Ryan Fitzmagic into Ryan Fitzcraptrick. Craptic. There you go, Ryan Fitzcraptic in the first half.
Terry called him
Yeah,
Fitztragic.
Fitztragic. I like that one too. And they did it by being aggressive. They did it by getting in his face. They did it by making him uncomfortable in the pocket. And what do they do in the second half? Instead of being the same aggressive unit they were in the first half, they backed off.
Yep.
And sure enough, there you go. Mr. Craptatrick turns back into Fitzmagic, and he starts making these plays. It was the tale of two halves with them. I will give the defense some credit in that when they had to stand up and get the ball out of their hands at the end of the game, they got a 3-and-out. And they needed to do that. I don't think any of us thought they would.
No, they didn't. And you know what? That's a good segue to let all of our listeners know, especially those who will be coming out to Heinz Field. The Steelers' next game, a home game, primetime affair, Sunday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. But before that, starting at around 3 p.m. That's Eastern time, in case some of you are coming over, out of other time zones I've talked to. 3 o'clock. Let's talk about this. The Pepsi Tailgate Tour. Pepsi always puts Pepsi always puts fans first, and this football season's no exception. The brand, including Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, and Pepsi Zero Sugar, just announced its first ever national and free to enter tailgate tour. It's a traveling celebration, stopping at some of the biggest college and NFL matchups of the season. Of course, this is actually happening, Brian, at the Ohio State-Penn State game over there in State College the day before as well. But they won't have some of the same special guests. So if you happen to...
Yeah. And it's Penn State. Who wants to go to Penn State?
And nobody really.
Yeah,
I mean,
forget that.
It's in the middle of nowhere. They have good ice cream. That's all I know.
There you go.
There will be an actual concert. There's a main stage performances, I guess, by Wheelhouse Records country music breakout duo LOCASH, featuring their new single "Feels Like a Party." That will headline the tour's stop in Pittsburgh this Sunday, September 30th, as the Steelers face their AFC North division rival, Baltimore Ravens. We're talking about all of the standings and things like this, but before that, folks, come out, enjoy the gaming area. There's all kinds of tailgate stuff there. You can win Pepsi stuff items, game tickets, plus there's free ice-cold Pepsi and Pepsi Zero Sugar, as well as Frito-Lay snacks and other tailgate foods that are available. Like I said, it starts at 3 o'clock. That's West General Robinson Street, right by Heinz Field. And the other headliners there, of course, former Pittsburgh Steelers themselves, Steelers alumni, Hall of Fame inductees, Dermontti, Dawson, and Rod Woodson. Should be a good time. If you're looking for a little bit more information about this, visit our website at steelcityunderground.com/Pepsi Pepsi Tailgate. That'll get you the more specific information about the Pittsburgh Steelers version of the Pepsi Tailgate Tour coming up this Sunday before Sunday Night Football. If you want more information in general about the entire Pepsi Tailgate Tour, visit PepsiTailgate.com or join the party on social media using the hashtag Pepsi Tailgate Tour. I feel like I said that a lot of times, but that's okay.
That's okay. Yeah. You know what I heard though? I heard there's other special guests going to be there.
Oh yeah, we'll be in attendance, of course.
Us, we're going to be there.
That's right, because we're the party animals. We're not headlining like LOCASH or Dirt or Rod Woodson, but
and nobody wants to hear us sing anyway.
No, definitely not sing. No, definitely not, and definitely not country music. I will not be able to sing. There's two things here. Terry comes on and says something about Le'Veon Bell rapping. I'm not musically inclined in either way. I wouldn't be able to do country music, or I wouldn't be able to do a rap song. I just, it doesn't work either way for me. I can't pour one for my homies, and I don't have a dog that can run away. So I've covered all my bases there.
Can you yodel?
I don't want to yodel, and please don't even test me. It's already
I won't.
It's already a late night of plenty of anxiety with the Steelers defense that just cannot allow us to go home early, go home sober for some of us, and just where do I even start with this?
This is the recipe. I mean, we saw the recipe that will be successful for this defense, and we saw the recipe that's going to be a problem for this defense. The recipe is they need to get pressure. When they get pressure, good things happen. When they don't get pressure and they play those soft zones and the linebackers are deep or too close to the line of scrimmage, they're going to get eaten up by teams. Any team with a decent quarterback is going to pick them apart and find that empty hole in the zone. They need to be an aggressive, rush defense that essentially can get in the face of the quarterback. And if they cannot do it with their four guys, they're going to have to be more creative. And I'll tell you, they were a little creative tonight. They rotated all three of the outside linebackers all over the place. I don't really understand the TJ Watt on OJ Howard move any better than I understood TJ Watt covering Sammy Watkins last week. But, it was interesting to see, Chickalo gets in there. He gets a sack. Obviously Dupree had a nice game. He gets the pick six. He also got a sack. TJ was playing in there as well. I think the other sack was actually John Bostic's, though. And so they got 3 sacks, and they need that. We've kind of thought this early on. It helps having Joe Hayden. The communication was much better, much better. I mean, you could see in the first half of this game, they passed their guys off much better. Their coverage was much tighter. When they played zone, they passed the guys from zone to zone. When they played man, they passed guys off there. And it was hard. There were times where there were just Fitzpatrick had no place to go with the ball. And then the second half came.
I don't even know. Like I said, I wasn't sure where to begin. I know there's still a lot of Bud Dupree haters out there, and I just got to point this game out as, hey, I thought he had a pretty solid game in there, and even there were times where he was pushing the pocket and helped create some things. That may have actually been either the Chickalo sack or the Bostic sack where someone came through the middle, but it wasn't like there was anywhere for Fitzpatrick to escape. There was another one where, you almost have what's become his trademark, let's overrun, and he cut right back and, force something to happen. That's better than doing nothing. I actually thought he was going to get in there and swipe at the ball again this week at some point. It's closer and closer. I'm at least encouraged by what I see with some of the things overall on the defense. I'm usually not too encouraged by Cody Sensabaugh. But 3 sacks. Let's see. There's 3 sacks overall. There's 3 interceptions overall. Mike Hilton got one. I think the interceptions were all basically simple, but it was all a matter of the pressure being put on Fitzpatrick, and they kind of folded. And there was a lot of pass deflections. 3 by Joe Hayden, who I thought really wasn't tested too much throughout the game, and then came up huge toward the end. And it was just that's why you hadn't been throwing to that side of the field. I mean, it's just it's not rocket science. You had Artie Burns force a fumble, and that was after Mike Hilton missed a tackle, by the way. So I was already cursing Mike Hilton, and it's like, oh, good Mike Hilton, you got on the ball. He had a pick. Then they were really blowing it up because, you know, he recovered a fumble after the missed tackle and made him sound like the player of the week. I hope he's okay. I think it was like an elbow or shoulder. The reason he left the game. So hopefully Steelers can ill afford that because, I mean, everybody was talking about Burns. And like I was saying when I watched, you know, the game and then I rewatched, I said some of the coaches' film, and there was a lot of problems with safeties. There was communication. There was things even coming out of the locker room where it was like half of the defense was running one play call and the other half was running a different play call on one of the Kelsey touchdowns the week before. And I think as long as they clean some of that up, you get rid of some of the garbage penalties that you can actually prevent, you know, and the rest you're just going to have to play ball because the rest of it, I really don't know what the officials are calling. I watched a lot of football this weekend, especially some of the NFL games. The Aaron Rodgers rule, poetic justice, because, well, that's what Noah called it. I wasn't sure if it was poetic justice. I think it's more like the karma. You know, hey, you can't breathe on Aaron Rodgers. You hurt him, and then it ended up screwing the Packers big time when Clay Matthews was called for it. And you had a lot of that in this game, and even both ways in some respect, like Ben getting smacked in the head, and they were like, they weren't quite sure. Jason Witten and those guys. I'm drawing a blank for the play-by-play guy from the game.
I don't know what his name is, but Jason Witten was the other guy, yeah.
Jason Witten, Booger McFarland, and the guy who did the play-by-play sounds like Gene Steratore, who was a referee, and it's not Gene Steratore, so I don't want to call him that. But, yeah, I mean, you know what? I was surprised to see Anthony Chickillo out there. I mean, why not? Vince Williams nearly got his career taken away, like his legs taken away from his body on a chop block. Thank God they caught that and called it. I don't know. Artie Burns was a mixed bag. I mean, he got beat on one. I mean, he made a couple other plays. So somewhere in the middle. TJ Watt, hey, he over pursued too. This is one of those things. It happens. Chickillo too. I mean, it's just this is what happens. You try and wash your guy out of the way and off the edge. So the secondary, I think, is just still a work in progress. I think Sean Davis could have helped on one of those early touchdowns. Was that O.J. Howard or Cameron Brate? Maybe they got two excellent. Sure. They had two good tight ends there, and it's just it's going to be one of these communication things, and they were doing much better at tackling overall for the most part in this game.
Yeah, I they missed a couple, but I thought the tackling was cleaned up a lot. Again, I thought the communications were cleaned up a lot. I'll tell you one thing: Terrell Edmonds got his pick, and that boy is freaky fast.
I wanted to see him take it all the way, a la Troy Polamalu. He's got that in him, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen this season. Write it down.
I agree. He I mean, you just watched, and that motor went from 0 to 120 in a heartbeat, and he was just flying. So that's good. Look, we've talked about it. It's going to be a learning curve with him. He's going to have to take his lumps, but it's nice to see him get involved. Like I said, the defense played I thought really well in the first half, and then they backed off, and I think that's the problem. This is not a defense that can play soft. I think they're built for playing aggressive.
The whole team has to play aggressive. Excuse me, I had to get some water. I was almost like dying over here and losing my voice. I get a couple more that I want to address, and it's mostly guys who play special teams. But Ryan Switzer, welcome to the NFL, young man. This is what we were very excited about having you come to Pittsburgh for. Excellent. This is what I actually said that Ben was throwing him under the bus for. This is the same play Ben missed him last week on, except they ran it on the opposite side and just a little short out route into the end zone. Beautiful. Got his feet down, almost bobbled it. I mean, they were calling your name. He was definitely the hot route there. Primary receiver. Excellent stuff. That I could see more and more and more. Just even talking with my cousin, we were making comparisons to those small white guys that they have up in New England all the time, like a Wes Welker. And I can say that because, but obviously. But Julian Edelman, Wes Welker. I don't know. Chris Hogan's been stinky this year, so we won't even go there. But anyways, that's one guy that's usually special teams. Next one.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
Cheers and jeers. Chris Boswell. It's cheers and jeers.
It just makes me so sad.
I don't know, like, what's going on with the Wizard of Oz. That's all the more we got to say about it, right? I mean, geez, hit the post. Maybe, like, geez, twice. Like,
look, I know it was crappy conditions down there. I'll grant that, but this is not. It's not like it's been. And look, I guess to be fair, it would seem like it was a nice game, the Kansas City game, or was it raining then too? I don't remember.
No,
but the Cleveland game was miserable, right?
It was still rather windy for the Kansas City game, and that open end, when I've seen that ball go up there, I'm not sure how much, because it's not like it's enclosed across, an upper level. There's still like a whole second tier of an open end stadium there. And, I said I've been down on the field when it was the open end, and you could see the way the ball moves in warm-ups and stuff like that. I haven't been over in that end zone to be able to judge it on a pregame yet, since they've closed it in last year. So I'll have to report back on that. But you could just tell by the little flags they have on the field goal post, it was whipping pretty decently in that game last week too. So
I don't know. Look,
it's tough.
It's tough. It's been tough 3 games for him. And, I don't know whether this is a saying or if it's just my saying, but, he's been money until he got money. And now, I don't want to say he's gotten paid and he's, not as intense as he was prior, but man, it's not a good look. And it's unfortunate where we're at, but hey, I guess he could have been the Browns kicker too. So
that guy wasn't going to make it. As soon as I saw all that, it's like 2 missed extra points and that field goal against the Saints. I mean, there's another thing to maybe discuss here is like some team, like we said, teams have had like a bad weekend. The Vikings, lost 27-6 to the Buffalo Bills. You look at the Cleveland Browns, okay, a tie with the Cleveland Browns in the muck. And maybe the Steelers should have won that game if Boswell hits that field goal. But you look at it, and it's like, okay, there's the tie. And they lose a Kansas City Chiefs team that it looks like they could do no wrong right now and are just lighting up everybody. And there's some panic setting in, and now you beat a 2-0 team, and you're 1-1-1. I like that. I like sitting there a little better when I see the Cleveland Browns, a kicker cost them a win against the Saints, and then they end up beating the Jets. You know what? Yeah. Cleveland might not be so bad. We always say this because it's like
we've been saying it for years, and it may finally be true.
Yeah, like the Jaguars last year, we're like, hey, Jaguars aren't a bad team. Oh, well, since they've been a doormat for years, that should be an automatic win. We feel entitled to victory. Well, it doesn't work that way. And then a couple of years ago, what was it? The Kansas City Chiefs? They like ran into a juggernaut of like every great quarterback that's playing in the league. I think they played Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady and several others. Drew Brees. They had everybody. There was like 6 games there. They lost in a row. Steelers go in there and end up losing a game. And I think was that the Landry Jones game, or maybe it wasn't, but it was a stinker of a game, and it was like, oh man, they lost to this team. They should have never lost this team. And then Kansas City doesn't lose a game the rest of the year and makes the postseason. So you just never know with some of these things. So I like the situation that they're in right now, because you look at some of the other things that are going on in the league. I mean, you had the Jaguars. We were talking about this off the air earlier. Jaguars end up beating the Patriots a week ago, and then they lose 9-6 in a baseball score to the Tennessee Titans in a divisional type game. And then you had the
Titans just owned the Jaguars lately.
Yeah, and they haven't lost to them in years, I think, at like home, and they've been sweeping them and everything else. It's just absolute madness. And it's a Tennessee Titans team, by the way, that has Blaine Gabbert playing for them. So I mean, you look at it and it's like anything can happen. Now, I mean, Blaine Gabbert didn't play like the whole game, but Mariota had like all they did was Mariota had like 18 pass attempts or whatever. But then you look at the Detroit Lions, who looked absolutely miserable when you saw them in week 1. And then they come out and they held the New England Patriots to only 10 points. And so they're 1-2. The Patriots are 1-2. And it's just one of these things. And I forgot to talk about my other guy before I got into my scheduling rant that I was going to do. But there's 2 2-1 teams, Cincinnati and Baltimore. And of course, course, now the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers also 1-1-1 right behind them, and you're going to get some of this to shake out now with the Sunday night game that we were talking about and the Pepsi Tailgate Tour and all of that. And you just got a lot. Really, the only teams that are really behind the eight ball now, 0-3, are the Houston Texans and Oakland Raiders and the Arizona Cardinals. You got 3 0-3 teams. You got a 3-0 team in the Los Angeles Rams, and then the Kansas City Chiefs and the Miami Dolphins. Oh, I'm sure everyone called that before the beginning of the season. But let me go back to a guy who saved his job. We were talking about guys losing their job and standings and where the Steelers sit and feeling a little bit better about ourselves after a 30-27 victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. Jordan Berry, I thought, had a very solid game. There was a very scary moment with Deshaun Jackson there and a holding call. Thank you, football gods. But he pinned the ball pretty consistent for touchbacks or put his special teams teammates into a position, field position, very big. You see what happens when the Steelers just gift it away. Kansas City Chiefs definitely took advantage of that. The Buccaneers at times took advantage of that. As long as he stays consistent, good Jordan Berry. It's like good juju. Good Jordan.
Yeah. He contributed to Bud's pick six. He pinned them down with a punt. It was a great special teams play. If you would talk about, again, the football gods giveth and they taketh away. They gave us a chance on that punt that Deshaun Watson took back, or Deshaun Jackson. But then Berry kicks another fantastic punt that would have pinned them down at the 1 yard line, but we got a penalty. And we had to re-kick, for some, I don't know, again, imaginary spaghetti monster landed on the field penalty. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, and then throw another one at Darius Hayward-Bay because he's arguing with it, and then it had to be, man, you got to tell your players, you got to do this, and it's like, well, how many times do these guys throw their hands around asking for calls or waving their fingers? And this guy that was like a side judge or whatever, he just was having none of it.
Yeah, this is one of those ones where the announcer goes, he said a word to that official that he's not supposed to say. Because he must have said something. The guy, clearly he was jawing at him and he threw the flag on him. And look, Hay-Bay knows better than that. It was a bonehead move. There were several bonehead penalties in there that they know better than to do. But hey, they got out of there with a win. It was, I don't think that a lot of people thought that they would. You and I both picked them, though. And I'm just going to mention again, Zach didn't think they were going to win. So, to Zach.
Hey, I did pick them, but what did I say before the season? Like, this is the one I thought was going to give them trouble.
It's week 3. It's the week 3 scary game.
And in Florida, on the road, they just against a team that you think they should beat, but now it's a 2-0 team. So maybe that changes things now. Like, Fitzmagic screwed up the whole thing. Thank you, Fitzmagic.
Yep. So they need to get back to work, figure out what they did right. You know that the game coming up on Sunday against the Ravens is going to be a different game. It's going to be AFC North football. So, the best thing we can say is, hey, you know what? They beat the Ravens and they leapfrog them in the standings.
Yeah, I'm always good with that. That's what I'm looking forward to. So we'll have that preview coming up. Maybe a few extra episodes here or there. We'll keep an eye. Our eyes are going to be peeled on this whole Le'Veon Bell thing that will never go away. They took him off the depth chart, so obviously this whole thing about listening to trade rumors is probably not really a rumor as much as we may say it would be. But I said one thing, it was like the Jets have emerged or whatever, and I was like, great, send them over to the AFC East and give the Patriots a little more competition over there. I mean, who knows? I was originally saying, well, the Bills are just phoning in an 0-16 season or whatever. They see what they did with the Vikings. It's like, well,
who knows?
This might
Wouldn't it be interesting for the Patriots to split their games all of a sudden with their division? Ooh!
That would certainly be helpful. Of course, the Steelers have a lot of divisional games, like 5 of them or something in the first 10 or 11, like something real crazy. And, they get their first one here, week 4, coming up Sunday Night Football. Don't forget about the Pepsi Tailgate Tour. And we'll have to catch you again later this week with another episode of the Steel City Underground podcast. Steelers a winner once again, 30-27 on the road at Tampa Bay. Now 1-1-1 on the season. Brian, thank you for joining me today.
Always a pleasure. Always a joy. I look forward to hanging out at the Pepsi Tailgate party next week.
Oh, I can't wait myself. And we've said that enough. So until next time, I'll tell you what, I could use one right now because it's like, things start to fade. You're doing the post game. It's a late night for us, of course. And the sugar would be very, very nice to keep the juices flowing. So keep that in mind. And they have collector's cans too, which is very cool. They're like throwback cans to Steely, like McBeam things. So, oh yeah, got to get one of those to put in the man cave. But till next time, folks, we'll close it off there. My name's Joe. His name is Brian. Be safe, be good, and we will catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.